Hello, my dear friends, and thanks for visiting the website for Breakthrough Prayer Ministries Incorporated. And I'm introducing Fighting in Faith, a practical guide for successful spiritual warfare that the Holy Spirit inspired me to pen. I guess the best way to say this is God wrote this book through me back in 2015. And in my mind's eye, the two primary reasons were, number one, to introduce to people the concept of spiritual warfare, and from a biblical perspective, what does it mean? How does it work? And are you in any danger, from it? And then the second reason, obviously, was to support my family financially. And the book has 16 chapters, and I'll just read them one by one. Conquering Doubt, Fear, Pride, and Unbelief is chapter 1. Chapter 2, The Natural and Supernatural Realms. Chapter 3, My Burning Bush Moment, which is my testimony of how, the reality of God came into my life. Everybody has to have their own burning bush moment in order to appreciate and understand that God is real. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not had your own personal burning bush moment like Moses had, and like I've had, and a lot of us, you still are not really understanding how serious this whole matter of life is. Chapter 4, My Separation from Ministry. 5, Prophetic Ministry. 6, Tongues and Interpretation of Tongues, a very, very important chapter. Chapter 7, Power Ministry, Part 1. A Biblical Foundation. Chapter 8, Power Ministry, Part 2, Signs, Wonders, and Miracles. Chapter 9, Power Ministry, Part 3, The Great Commission. 10, Ministering to Men, Husbands, and Fathers. 11, Ministering to Women, Wives, and Mothers. Chapter 12, Ministering to Children. 13, Ministering to Homosexuals, very important chapter there. 14, Maintaining Deliverance, probably one of the most important chapters in the whole book. 15, Testimonies in domestic missions work. In chapter 16, Testimonies in foreign missions work. Well, after this book was finished and everything, and edited and produced, and all of a sudden God spoke to me. I had been doing a local prison ministry with the pretrial detention facility downtown in the prison farm. And so God spoke to me and said, take 2 books to the chaplain, contact the chaplain and take 2 books to him, one for the pretrial detention facility downtown and one for the prison farm. So I obeyed that directive, and donated those 2 books. So I went down and met with the chaplain and gave him the books. I signed them and everything, dated them. And as soon as I got to my car, the Holy Spirit spoke to me again and said, okay, now I want you to send 1 copy to each prison in the state of Florida. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's got to be a lot of prisons. So I get back to my law office, and sure enough, I look up the prisons online, and it's like, with the reentry facilities and everything, it's like 55 prisons. So that's immediately at least 55 books. So I start, calling up the prisons. I need to know how to do this. So I called one prison, and they told me basically, you need to talk to the chaplain for that. So I got the chaplain on the phone, excuse me. And, chaplain told me how to mail the book. And basically he told me to send the book to the inmate library at the prison in care of the chaplain. So I did that with that prison and with the rest of them. And in one prison, chaplain wanted 5 books. So I sent out in waves, 10 to 15 books at a time until all prisons were covered. And I thought, that was a done deal. I had donated all of those books. That's a lot of books to donate. So I thought it was done. As soon as I finished the last prison, God spoke to me one more time, and he said this. He said, okay, now I want you to send a copy of this book to every inmate library of every state prison in every state in the United States of America. And so that's how this page is up on this website, because we're in the process of methodically and systematically sending at least 1 copy of Fighting in Faith, a practical guide for successful spiritual warfare to each state prison library in each state in the United States of America. So we've covered Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, and California. And I think the next one is going to be Arkansas. And so here's the real blessing behind it. And I would just be honest with you, when I first heard the voice of sending 55, it was to all the state prisons in Florida, which, with the reentry centers and everything else, is 55 plus. I was kind of concerned about that because that takes quite a bit of money. But what I've come to understand is whatever God orders, he pays for. So that is not even an issue. Since God ordered it, it's being, taken care of. That's not an issue. And so although I am financially, and I thank God for it, financially in a position to take care of this by the grace of God, I don't want to be stingy with it either, because anytime you do something like this, there are plural rewards both in the heavenly realm and in the natural realm, natural and the supernatural realm. So what I do is I give other people an opportunity, if they want to share in this ministry. And so at the on the contact page, you can, if you like, you don't have to. I'm not necessarily asking you to, but I'm not going to prevent you from doing it if you want to either. You can give a donation of whatever amount. It's a tax deductible donation, and that will go towards the Books for Prison ministry, because it is a lot of books that have to go out. It's a lot of prisons in a lot of states, and it's amazing. Some states have just a plethora of prisons and other states don't. So anyway, that's how that ministry came up, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce it on the website and explain how it came about and how it goes and everything else. And as you can see, there are testimonies. I couldn't put all of them on. I get letters from prisoners from all over the place, just about every state that we send books to. There are letters written back by inmates, chaplains, and because it is a unique ministry. So one of the real blessings about it is you get to hear how the book is manifesting in people's lives, and how now a lot of inmates understand that they were under some power that they didn't even recognize, that inspired them evilly to do some of the things that they did. And here's the beauty of it, and I'll end with this. I do minister to several prisoners, because what happens is they a lot of them have never had father figures, things like that. So they ask me to be a spiritual counselor to them, a spiritual mentor, whatever. So I don't turn them down. So I get to visit with them in different states and talk to them and comfort them and counsel them, and we conduct Bible studies together and things like that. But here's the real beauty of it. A lot of these people, a lot of them are set free completely. They are physically locked up, but psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, they have joy in their hearts. And to be frank with you, a lot of them are more free than people that I run into every day who don't have shackles on them. They are indeed free. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. So a lot of prisoners, I go in to encourage them, but every time I've ever gone to a prison, I walk out encouraged, because I see people who are physically locked up, yet spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, they are free. They have joy. They're no longer chained up or bound by the negative attitudes, dispositions, and proclivities that facilitated their incarceration in the first place. So again, thank you for visiting our place on the World Wide Web, and may God richly bless you and your entire household.